Hi everyone, welcome to INT 2200. Since most of you are not able to join us on the live session, I wanted to do a recording session of that that goes over the essentials of what the course is about. This is basically introductory to Java programming, and we are covering it within 5 weeks. So I wanted to touch some points that you will need. Besides the book, I want you to basically go through the modules in Solo Learn for Java. You basically log in with your Gmail account or with your Facebook account. So you will be able to go through here and go through the modules, and in Rebel It, that would be where you would submit your projects. Now, just to show you how this tool looks like, that you go to sololearn.com. This is how it looks like. You log in with your Gmail account and you will pick Java. Now, if I click on the Java program with this course, I guess I will have to log in with my Gmail account. And so while this is logging in, this is how the Repl.it looks like. So repl.it. Okay, that's where you will be submitting your projects in, basically by copying the URL. And here, once we log in, I will show you how it looks like. So going back, so let's start with the announcements. I normally update announcements here, kind of like I updated for this week. And then you start with syllabus and schedule. So syllabus and schedule, if you click on that, it has the links for the syllabus, and then it also has the link for the tentative schedule. So if I go to those, you will see this is the schedule, kind of highlights what we are covering for that week, the outline, and then the due date. You basically go with the last day. So let's say the 7th, which is Sunday, do last day of each date on a column. So normally I accept until Sunday. Okay, so for each project you see it like that. And you also have what's called, I will go over the programming project. Before I do that, then you go over the syllabus. Make sure you read the syllabus, the essential points, what's covered in the course, the objectives, and then the course material. And I do have a link for you. So this is basically the 10th edition is what you need for things to match, and then the grading criteria, the projects you have due, the points, and so forth. Okay. And then after that, let me go back. So you also have, besides the schedule, besides the syllabus and the schedule, I have put in a programming project, kind of like a rubric. You have basically 6 to 7 projects, and these are inside the course content sessions. I want you to go over this. You have 2 chances for each project. In case you mess up the first one, you can resubmit again. Again, as long as they have submitted on the last day, that's fine. But if you submit the last day, you don't have a second chance. But if you submit it before the last day, you still have a second chance. And then you have the grading rubric. This is the documentation. Documentation alone is just 9 points, and then a working project would be 16 points. So when we say 9 points, just the documentation, we're talking about your name, the date, the project, what's this project about, how are you able to solve it. That is just the external documentation. And then the internal documentation, you kind of explain what each one does, if it's unique items, right? So you basically explain what each one does and so forth. So that would be the documentation. Okay, and then make sure that you don't have any errors. So that's what we go through in terms of the programming project. And then under the course content, is where we have the sessions for each session, the chapters to cover, and then the flow of the course to give you an idea, and then the sessions. Here you have a folder for tests. Here we have sessions. Again, if you have different book, we kind of map we kind of put it together so that you can see the labs, so what matches what and so forth. And then for the sessions, you have session 1 alone, you have introducing yourself, chapter 1 and 2 covered, the quizzes, and then inside there you have a lab 1. So lab 1 is basically a programming project. It says you have just opened a business with your own truck. To keep this simple, you're planning to sell 5 items. And then you're going to design a Java program to display customer receipts showing each item ordered and the food and so forth, right? And then you're calculating a tax, sales tax, and then the output should be similar to like a receipt. Okay. Now, when the Java program is run, it creates a customer receipt based on the information about the items ordered. Remember, the customer is ordering it, and then the amount of money turned it, and then here's an example. So the example that it's like the business name, and then you have the address, the phone of the business, and then the output. So the output basically has about 4 columns. You have the quantity, you have the name of what you're selling, you have each item's cost, and then the total cost for that. So if somebody bought 2 small pizzas, each one at $8.90, so $8.99, that becomes $17.98, and so forth. And then at the end, you have the total amount, the tax, how much it costs, and then how much is given, and then they change. And sometimes I ask you, make sure these things are lined up, meaning that if like the 2s are lined up, the small pizzas lined up, and so forth. Okay, so that you format it like that. So that is the project. So each project you have to submit a URL link, and this URL link would be the repo, the one you copy from here is what you submit. Now, if I go back here, and if I go back here and click on the lab 1, you would see there is a place for me to paste the link, or you can write a text message here and then paste the link here. Either one of them is fine, and you press submit. Okay, and then it shows you the points and so forth. Alright, so once you submit, I will be able to see your project. Make sure you double check and test the URL. Now again, here we have 2 chapters that the program we talk about in this session alone. Now these 2 chapters, chapter 1 and 2, would be the introductory. Chapter 1 discusses about what we discussed. If you have taken the introductory to Python or any other programming class, the introductory is pretty much the same. Even if you have taken INT 1010, which is the first course that you are required to take, the things that we discuss are exactly the same. What is a computer program? You know, CPU, memory. So it's everything, the general stuff that's the same. Every class that you take, even all the way to computer science 2, the introductions are all the same, the first chapter. And then in the second chapter, we discuss what's called Chapter 2 Elementary Programming. So this gives you an example. Each one of them, I want you to run and test it, the links, or even copy the code that's given and then play with it. So in introducing programming with an example, so this is computing the area of a circle. So now this area of a circle, basically you have the driver of the program, right? Everything starts with public static void main. And then the variables, okay, double area, assign the radius, and then the compute. In your case, you'll be computing for that project when I buy 2 items of something, each one costs, let's say 2 pizzas, each costs $8, then you multiply, you will do that. That's the type of calculation that you will do. So you can call it something like the total cost of that. And then the display would be the output. All right, so the output, the display would be like, in your case, you'll be displaying something like, you know, the header of the receipt, which is the name of the business, the address, the phone, and so forth, right? So anything that's output, you will do that. But anything that is input, then you have to ask the user. So in this case, it's going through an example, which you should go through it just in case you're building your program as well. Now, how would you do that, right? So you have to do what's called a scanning. So this is basically when you're doing the input. So this is when you're feeding an input from the console. So in your case, you're asking 5 items. How many chicken do you want? How many pizzas do you want? So when you're doing that, you have to do what's called a scanner. Scanner input equals new scanner.system.in. So that's why I was saying that you guys should go through the solo learn, and then it kind of goes through all this, and then so it will be easier for you as you're going through it. But with chapter 2, it talks about it. You can run it and practice it from there. And then run that program. So, and then it goes through the identifiers. So these are the variables. You will say chicken equals $2.99. So this will be like the variables that you are setting up. Okay. And then declaring the variable. So in your case, you are declaring about 5 variables, and then it goes through. So again, for those of you that have taken the intro before this class, the variables are basically name holders, and then these variables, they are holding a position for you. It's a temporary memory in the computer, so it's called RAM. So these variables, we have integer, we have float, we have double, and these are basically depending on the type of the size that they can hold. Okay, and then when you're setting it to something, this is called an assignment. So here you're initializing it. So int x equals 1, you are declaring that. So in your case, something like the tax rate, it will be like a double because it has a decimal. So it will be double tax rate equals whatever tax rate, 0.06 and so forth. But in case of the quantity, in that case, it will just be what do you call integer? It will be integer number of chicken or something like that because it's a whole number. Okay. But the cost of each item, again, you will want to use either a float or a double. Okay. So again, this is some of the basics that you normally go over in the first course of the programming classes that we have, like we did with the Python and so forth. So again, both chapters go over the basics of the operations of basically running a basic program. As you go through this, I actually want you to do what do you call the solo learn. That's why it's very important. I made it mandatory that you actually, if you can go through it the first week, that would be great first weekend, and then that you start submitting your project. Now, as you're submitting the project, and the first project basically asking you to order 5 items, you have, import. Again, with Java, it's different. If you have seen Python, another language, you have to import the utilities that you're going to use. In this case, when you import java.util.scanner, this is basically saying, I want to ask the user something so that I can input something, and then we can communicate back and forth. This is when you import the scanner. And then here you have, every program has a main. This is what's called the driver. In this case, this is the driver, and then this would be what's considered a class. Okay, I had these students actually do a class, which is basically what I required in the previous class. I think you may have taken it with me. And I required a class, meaning that one of the projects you will be doing a class. I think probably the last one. So the main static void main, this is the main class that I expect. You have to do it for programming that you submit. You will start with, and then all the variables that you are that you're going to use. So in this case, price for hamburger $4.99, price of pizza $14.99, and so forth. The variables, and then the sales tax. And then from there, then the scanner. Scanner means you're about to ask the user some questions. Now, the first question, again, this is, you need more information here, basically your name, the project, the date, and then inside, this is inside, what do you call, internal documentation. You explain what the next line of code and whatever they are doing. So when you write this, you basically say, I'm about to ask some questions to the user. Okay, fine. And then after that, the question system.out print line, how many burgers would you like each at this price? So here you're asking the question, and then you ask after you do your questions, and then the next line, and then you do your calculation. Float cost of hamburger equals that much times that, and then you basically doing all the calculation. Go back to that slide, kind of like how they had when you're calculating the area. And then after that, you would do the receipt, the printout after you have asked every question. And then you do the receipt, and then within the receipt, you will be just the output. Now, when you run the receipt, let's run this program, and then when we run it, you will see it. The receipt will be clean to the point where it only shows what it needs to be. So I say, I need how many burgers do you want? I need 5 of that, 4 of that, 3 of that, 2 of that, and 1 of that. And then now it's asking me how much am I going to pay? Okay. So if the money is not enough, make sure you're able to repeat. Right now, I just said 10, and this project, it doesn't require you to check if the money is enough or not. So here you have the receipt, and then you have the 4 columns. This is very formatted very well. So you have the column for the quantity, the name, each item, and then the total cost, and then the subtotal, the sales tax, the total amount, and then the change, and then thank you. In the second or third or fourth project, I'm asking you if the money is not enough, you will do a loop. We haven't covered loop yet in the second session, so that's why the basics of just the input and output and then just printing it out is all you need. So that is basically the first project. So once you're done, you basically copy the URL from here and then come to where you submit the project and then submit that URL like I showed you. Click on it and then you can create a write text message and then basically paste it on there, or you can paste it on there as well. Either one is fine. Okay, so each assignment is like that, and then each unit comes with a quiz. Okay. Now, next thing I wanted to show you. Well, let me go back to course content, and then you have session 2 covers chapter 3. So chapter 1 and 2, chapter 3, chapter 4 and 5, and so forth. So each chapter we're going through that. Again, you go through all this step by step. Don't skip anything, and then you won't fall behind. Okay. Then we have the discussion board where you had, you introduced yourself, at least 5 sentences, minimum of 3 sentences to kind of respond at least 2 of your classmates, and that is basically it. Okay. So I just wanted to do this quick video for those that were not able to join us, so you can see what we're supposed to do. So okay, so here I am. I'm logged in with the Java course. So if I say the basic concepts with the Java, it will show you introduction to Java, hello world, how to do it. Java comments. Comments means basically documentation. Okay, the variables like what we just saw in in the program, the variables like we discussed there. And then incrementing, decrementing, this is with the loop, so you can do that later. And then getting user input. Basically, just the first part alone is what you need for the first project. Getting user input means that you ask the user, give me something, and then he will give you your calculator. So again, just the first part is all you need for this module. Okay. So let me go back and then click on the Java tutorial. Now, if I click on Java tutorial, just the first part alone, just the first 6-7 things that will take you 10 minutes, that's all you will need to submit your first project. Okay, that covers just unit 1 and 2. Okay, and then it's after that we will go into the conditions and so forth, which is project 3 and 4 and so forth. So your first 2 projects is just within the SolarLearn. The interactive part of that is all I am asking for you to be able to submit. So when you submit the project, you will use the Replit to submit. Okay. All right. So that's all I wanted to show you. I'm going to upload this for you, and it will also be on YouTube. All right. Thank you very much.